All right, I'm going to go ahead. This is going to be a short video. I'm going to be doing Puzzle Rush Survivor, just 2 attempts. So see how far I can get in these 2 attempts. Okay, here we go. Felt like a lot of echo there for some reason, all the beeps. So no timer here. So we're going to see what we can do. Talk about the tactics a little bit as we go. Here, white has some back rank problems. So that is checkmate. And in this position, I've got my queen and rook lined up on the e3 square. Let's check. Bishop's covering the light square, so that will be checkmate. Here I've got a fork. Make sure there's nothing better. Okay, we'll win the rook. All right, right now my queen and rook are being forked, but I have a mate. Okay, in this position, my light squared bishop is cutting off a lot of squares. This could be one where I am sacrificing a rook. My back rank could be an issue. Let's see, am I winning any other material? Obviously, it doesn't seem like it, but I want to calculate these all the way through. So rook captures c3, b captures c3, queen captures c3 check. He cannot go to the b1 square. He cannot block with the bishop or its mate, so he has to run to the d1 square. After he runs to the d1 square, let's see if I can get some arrows going here. After he runs to the d1 square, I then have a bunch of choices. But where's the mate? Okay, I can then play rook d8 check along the file. And he can give up a piece to continue playing, it looks like. That might be his best. Yeah, because he can't keep running. Or can he? He could then run to this square. And then I could go bishop or queen check. All of that looks good. But where is the actual mate? Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes, check. He steps over. I check him again, maybe? Or if I check him and he runs onto their square, can I get this bishop? Well, okay, so rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Oh, it didn't continue. Okay. So I was calculating all of that for nothing. All right, continuing on. Let's see. I can take this pawn with check and win the bishop. Is there anything better? My knight's protected, so let's go ahead and take the free piece. In this position, bishop check looks strong. If the king goes into the corner, then I have knight captures f7 checkmate. If he goes into the corner, so for that reason, after bishop check, he might take with the knight, and if he takes with the knight, then I have queen takes h7 checkmate. So bishop here check, he takes with the knight, and that's checkmate. Okay, here we are just winning a piece. Simple tactic. Here we are winning the queen. The queen is undefended on a file with my queen and bishop. So let's grab the right piece. Check and free piece. Up to 9. Okay, in this position, we have a fork on e2. Even though that square is guarded, if the rook captures us, which it has to, because we're forking the king and queen, has to as in he's going to lose too much material otherwise. Once he does that, we can then capture twice on c1, and we will be up in exchange. Okay, in this position, He has opened up the diagonal towards his king, so I'm going to play queen h4 check. He's probably going to block with the pawn. That way he avoids the knight coming into f2 with a fork on the queen and rook. And when he blocks with the pawn, I can capture the pawn with my knight because his h-pawn is pinned to the rook. So check, blocks, capture, win the rook. All right, in this position, he's going to end up getting checkmated the moment he queens because I'm going to move my king over. His only legal move is to push his pawn, and then I would advance this pawn 2 squares in order to checkmate. So here, push my pawn, he queens, and that is checkmate. All right, in this position, I'm looking initially at bishop a4 check because his knight will be pinned along the c-file. So bishop a4 check, he can block with the pawn though. And what do I really get out of that? I need a good way to save my queen, I guess, eventually. So I want to do something with check. So I could go queen a4 check, push the pawn. I could capture the pawn with check. And then I take there. I don't want to just take his queen because then he takes mine. And I'm not sure I've gotten anything out of that. Take a second and get a drink. All right. So when we're doing these puzzles, we're looking for forcing moves. Queen takes d2 I don't like because after the king captures and I capture his queen, he can capture back with the h-pawn and I'm down in exchange. I can't bring my queen back along the f-file. So it looks like queen a4 check, pawn b3, bishop takes b3 is my best option because then if the king captures, my queen can capture on d2, saving my queen and winning a pawn, and then he must save his queen. Okay, so he goes backwards, in which case I'm going to get this piece for free, and his queen's still under attack. Okay, in this position, Okay, so I have this nifty move, bishop b5, pinning the queen to the king, and when he takes my bishop, I can take on c8 with check, and then pick up the rook in the corner. All right, moving along, that's 14 down. All right, in this position, material's even. I cannot take the knight with my pawn because then I'm going to get mated on d8 because of the pressure along this file. So what I'm looking is at checking on g5. He does something to get out of check or block the check, and then I capture the knight. And then I am up a piece, and I'm not getting mated. If he plays f4 to block the check and guard the knight, I can just take f4 with check and still pick up the knight. All right, in this position, I can take his knight, but then he recaptures with the bishop, so I don't really know if that's anything great. My bishop is guarded right now, so there's really no rush. Knight to c3, and then my bishop is no longer guarded, so that's not ideal. My rooks are doing surprisingly little on the c-file right now. Can't really get to his king. His bishops are controlling my knights well. So maybe, okay, so bishop takes d2, bishop takes d2. No. feel like I've got to move that c knight in order to get my rooks involved. Think here for a second. Should be something fairly obvious still at this point. We're still under 1,000 on the ratings. Bishop captures d2. Bishop captures d2. Nothing there. My knight cannot really move anywhere on the c file. So bishop captures, knight d3 opens up the c file, then he just takes it. That doesn't seem good. Maybe I need to open up the c5 square for the bishop. So something like knight d7. Attacking the e5 pawn, that's hard to believe. Yeah, and he's got bishop f7 check there. That doesn't look good. I could go bishop to c3. Bishop to c3, hitting the knight still. Hitting the e5 pawn. So I'm going to go ahead and play bishop c3, I think. Incorrect. Take the knight and then pin the bishop. Let me just hover over this. So I take the knight. Pin the bishop to what? What can I pin the bishop to? Oh, pin the G bishop. Ah, okay. I thought you were talking about the dark square bishop, but you mean pinning the light square bishop. That makes sense. So I exchange with the knight and then swing my rook over to the king side. Okay. That's a pretty good one. All right. Moving on here. Okay, we can check the king, but his rook's kind of trapped. So if I can resist the urge of letting his rook out, that would be ideal. My knight is under attack, so I might not have a choice, but perhaps I can get some kind of fork going. All right, so if I check the king right now, he's really limited on squares. In fact, knight f6 is just mate. Wow, that's a pretty strange checkmate. Yep, knight f6 mate. Okay, very nice one. All right, here we are in this puzzle. Okay, here we've got queen to e8 check. And if the king runs over to the h file, we can go rook h5 check, perhaps. He can't block with knight f8, though. Okay, we could go... Yeah, I've got to decide, am I going for mate or am I going for material here? I can check with the queen. The king steps up. If the knight blocks, maybe I bring my rook down and I win a piece. So if the king steps up, then I can go rook check. King steps up again. Okay, so queen e8 check. King to h7. Oh, maybe I throw in bishop d3 check first. And then if he steps up, I can bring the queen to h8. Because if I check him with the rook on h5 first, his king can get to g6 and it's kind of tricky. Okay, so queen check. Okay, so he's not going to do that. He's going to this way. So this should just win a piece. Okay, so they didn't make me go through the rest of it. All right, in this position, we are up a piece, but our king is in the middle of the fight right now. So where is the checkmate? His king is very exposed. I've got to be careful because queen f3 is mate for him. So everything has to be a forcing move, a check or a capture. In this case, it's got to be even more forcing. It's just got to be a check. Otherwise, I'm going to get mated on f3. I don't think I have time to really deal with that to stop it. So rook b1 check. Rook b1 check. He cannot block. He cannot capture. He has to go to a8, and then queen captures on c6 is mate. Check and checkmate. There we go. All right, in this position, I would really like to move my queen so my knight could occupy that e6 square, because that would win me material. If I take on e7, though, the king gets to move. So I can take on e7, and if the king moves, then I can play knight e6, threatening checkmate on g7 and threatening the queen. If I take on e7 and the rook blocks, I can play the fork on e6 with check. The king moves, and I can just take the rook if the king moves too far. Or I can take the queen. All of that looks great. So take on e7. He moves back. Now we threaten on g7 and threaten the queen. And that's the end of the puzzle. Okay, king pawn endgame. I cannot take on f5. Not even going to draw the arrow, or I'll accidentally make the move, because I got to be careful about this h-pawn running down the board. If I take on c4, I'm drawing his king closer to my pawns, closer to the action. That feels wrong. I think I just push the g-pawn, because he can't advance h7 as long as my king can go to the g7 square. So I push g4. Yeah, and his king is not inside the box, which means his king cannot stop my pawn. And then now that he was forced to take, I can take back, and his king has several steps in order to get to my pawn. And now we bring the king back to g7, and that's the end of the puzzle. Okay, let's keep it moving. We're up to 20, doing pretty well here. All right, so in this position, the material is even. Why can't I take the bishop for free? My rook is not hanging. So I take the bishop. He captures back with the knight. I don't think I can take his knight, because then he takes my bishop on d2 with check and then gets the knight. I think I've got to take the bishop. So I take the bishop. He captures the knight. I capture back. Yeah, it just looks like a free bishop. Okay, it was, but we want to double check. We want to be doing these as if we were playing in a real game. Okay. So I think I'm winning a piece here with the move b captures c4, bishop captures c4, and his bishop is actually pinned to the king by my bishop, which normally wouldn't mean anything. But I have then the move rook to b5 check. His bishop can't capture because it's pinned by my bishop, so his king's going to move to c3, and when it does that, I can then slide my rook over to c5 and pin the bishop another way in order to win it. So check, check, and he's just giving up his bishop for free. If the king had run to c3, rook c5 would win it. So now we take, and if he then, it didn't continue, but if his rook slid over to pin my bishop to my king, my rook would come back to c5 again, breaking the pin, and my king is close enough to keep everything safe. All right, so in this position, he's not threatening to take my knight because his knight is pinned. So where are we material-wise? He has all of his pawns, and I am down a pawn. I'm down a pawn, but I've got some pressure. So what am I trying to do here? Okay, his queen is actually trapped in this position with the move g4. So I play the move g4, and his knight cannot capture because then I mate him on the d7 square. And his queen cannot capture because it's guarded by my knight, so g4 traps the queen. Okay, he chooses checkmate instead. All right, so in this position, we are down material. He has a queen for my rook, but he's about to lose his queen. I'm going to play the move rook g1 check. His king will have to step up to c2. Even after he blocks with the bishop, I can take it. When he goes to c2, knight b4 will win the queen. Check, check, and here check. I'm happy to let him take my rook because I have the knight at the end. All right. That puts us up to 24. Okay, so in this position, my queen is under attack, but so is his. So do I just take his knight with my queen? If I take the knight with my queen, he can save his queen, and then I can save mine, and I'm up a piece. I can take the pawn. Doesn't really threaten anything. With my lack of development, I don't really have any threats. So I don't think I can really do anything else with my queen. Either we both save our queens, or I grab that knight first. Okay, he takes it, and he's down a piece. Okay, in this position, he is either losing his queen and rook. So his queen is guarding the rook. It's the only thing guarding the rook. So if I can remove the defender by playing a move like b4, attacking the queen, if the queen moves off of the diagonal of the rook, he loses the rook. And if he takes that moment to take my rook, it's not with check. And therefore I can take his queen before dealing with his rook. So attack the queen, it backs up, running out of squares on the diagonal. Now we play a5, and we get the queen. That's a nice little tactic. All right, in this position, looking at the material, we are down a piece. We're down a piece, and our king is under attack. So we're going to need to do something drastic. But his queen's running low on squares. Okay, let's see here. Is this a queen trap, or am I going for his king? Both seem plausible. So I'm looking at two moves right now, queen d5 and rook e3. So if I go rook e3, his queen cannot run here, 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 or here, or here. I can't take my rook. He can go to b2. And if I attack the queen again by playing rook b1, I'm going to lose the a3 pawn. But I can play the move rook b2, and that traps the queen. So there is a queen trap here. The question is, does queen d5 lead the mate? I don't see a way I can attack the king once it gets to d8, except for taking on f6, which will let him boy. Okay, so queen d5, threatening queen f7, leading the mate. No, still not leading the mate. Check, he goes back, check. It might lead the mate if he lets me go to f7, but if he plays something like rook f8, I don't have anything. And if I play queen d5, he guards the mate. I guess he could also play knight d8. There would no longer be a rook trap because my rook on a1 would be unguarded. So looks like rook trap it is, and he just gives up the queen. Okay. Another one bites the dust. All right, so here we are. Notice that our bishop is... Wait, I guess I'm just trying to... Which way am I going? Yeah, so I'm just trying to draw this game because my bishop, it does not match the square that my pawn would queen on. And so if he wants to draw, he can simply run his king back to that A1 square, and I can't get him out. And so at best, black is drawing this. So I'm looking at king to G6, stopping the G pawn in place. He plays the move F7, and when he does that, I can play the move bishop D5, check. He captures, I capture, and it's a draw. After this, does he have any other moves? He could move his king, but that's not going to make any progress, so yeah. Take, and that's a draw. Okay. That's 28. Feels like they've almost gotten a little easier the last few. Okay, in this position, both the queens are under attack. And since I said they feel like they've gotten easier, this one's probably going to be really tough. Both queens are under attack. Materially, I am down material. If I take his bishop, I'm down just in exchange. The question is, do I have a mate here? So I can take with my bishop. I don't want to take with my queen because a queen trade, I'm just down in exchange. So I take with my bishop. He has to save his queen. The only way to save his queen is to move it along that diagonal, at which point I can play bishop F6 check. He moves the king, and then I can play queen to G5, which will lead to mate or winning the queen. Well, what if he goes back to H7? So bishop captures, goes back to H7. Bishop check. He goes back to G8. And when I check him on G5, he has to block with the queen and it leads to mate. Okay, so here he chooses not to save the queen. So we're going to check the king and then just take the rook because his queen's still under attack. Okay, that's 29. All right, so in this position, I'm hitting his rook, but I've got to be careful because he's almost queening. So I can take the rook. He checks, I move, he pushes his pawn. He pushes his pawn, and then I play rook b4, and I have two things on the file. So here, he checks me some way, I move out of the way. He pushes his pawn, and then rook b4. Two attackers on the file means I should have stopped the pawn. Move my king out of the way. Okay. Rook b4. If he queens, I can just take his queen. If he takes my rook, I recapture with check. So rook b4 is still the answer, although I'm a little lucky that it worked because I didn't consider him trying the queen on the A file. All right, so in this position, I've got 3 pawns. He has the rook. This is winning, though. I just have to do it correctly. So I'm going to take the rook, and then when he captures, I'm going to move my king. I guess I've got to start by taking the rook. And then the question is here, do I push my pawn? No. I want to move my king, so he has to take the time to capture the pawn. So here, 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 here. Queens. That's not good enough. Okay, so what else can I do here? I can go here. So how do I... If I push the pawn, he has to capture. And does that help me at all? Then I go here, he pushes. There is a difference here. It does matter where my king goes. Okay, if I push and he captures, and then I move out of the way and he pushes, and I push, 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 queen, I queen with check, and then what? Here, here, push. Oh, wait. I'm queen with check anyway. Yeah, so when I go here and he captures, I'm already queening with check. Okay. That's what I missed. So he has to move away from the checks, although here I need to shoulder him so he doesn't stop my pawn first. And I'll have enough time to get the queen back. All right, so maybe that one wasn't that difficult, but we had to think through it. We're up to 31, though, so doing well here. Our queen is under attack. Their queen is under attack. My queen will be taken with check, and theirs won't, so that makes a difference. However, I have a check on A8, and when I check on A8, he's going to have to block with something. And when he does, I can just take whatever he blocks with check. And when I do that, I will then be able to take his queen with check after that and save mine. Okay, so check, he blocks. Now I capture the bishop with check, and then I capture the queen with check, and then I can save my queen however I want. All right, here we are on puzzle number 33. Material is two rooks, queen and queen, bishop for knight. I've got 5 pawns. He has 5 pawns. I can take his knight, but then I lose my rook. So that's the question. My queen is also in danger here. So taking the knight seems to make sense. I take the knight. He takes my rook. I take the knight. He takes my rook. I can push the pawn to f3. He can play queen g7 check. I don't think I can let queen g7 check happen. Yeah, that seems way too dangerous. So I capture the knight. He captures my rook. And I need something there. I was thinking about queen captures e2, but he can still play queen g7 check. So that doesn't feel forcing enough either. Do I have to play defense? I just gave up material, so I don't want to play defense. Not so obvious. Queen's under attack, so I've got to do something about that. I could move my queen, and his knight would still be under attack. So where can I move my queen so his knight doesn't have a good place to go? I feel like I've got to take the knight. Rook captures. After rook captures, I need a move. Because I don't think my king's surviving that. How do I get his queen to move? What else can we do? I could play something like rook captures e4, and he just takes my queen. Okay, we gotta take the knight. Incorrect. Darn. It's 2 strikes on us. Okay, in this position, I could play bishop d4, attacking the queen and the rook. He can't take on f2, so does that just win material? It looks like it. And I just take the bishop, same fork. No, if I take the bishop with my bishop, he then gets a take on f2. So I have to take the bishop with my queen. That's the key. There we go. Okay, 33. This position, opposite colored bishops, which means the person attacking has the advantage. And right now I am on the attack. I could play bishop a4 check. I could play queen g8 check. I like queen g8 because my queen's not doing anything on h7 right now. So queen g8 check, king steps up, and then he doesn't have any checks, so then something like bishop a4. So if he steps up here, bishop a4, and he's going to get mated on the e8 square. If I go check, and he steps this way, then I go check here anyway. And he has to run onto a dark square. If he runs this way, I've got to check here, which leads to mate. If he runs here, 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 then I don't even need a forcing move, I guess, because he doesn't have any checks. Okay, so check. Incorrect. Ooh. Okay. Well, 33, not bad. Let's go ahead and go over the 3 that I missed quickly. So, bring this one up. I know, second one, it was suggested that I take the rook with the queen, so I'll look at that next. In this first one, see if it's even the right size, since my boards are always changing sizes on chess.com. I don't know why they do that. It feels like they're always different sizes. Okay, well, I guess you guys can see that. Okay, so in this position, it is bishop takes d2 as discussed, bishop takes d2, and then rook g7, pinning to the king. It's a nice tactic. All right, the second one. Let that load up. All right, so queen takes rook. Oh, gotta press on this in order to see it. Always making us open more tabs. Queen takes rook. Queen takes queen. And then I take the knight and pin the queen to the king. I see. That's a nice one too. Okay, I saw that there was something here, but the fact that he had 2 pieces and I had 1, I discarded it a little bit too quickly. And then we are winning the queen. In this position, we are up the original knight. So that is a nice one. And the last one. In this last puzzle, we play g5. We're going after the queen. Okay, if the queen just moves, we're just taking on g7. So we can't get the king. Wow, I really thought we were going after the king. Here, bishop f8, and when I check, I guess he can go there safely. What happens if he does run this way? Is he in that much trouble? He is, okay. After this move, then I play g5. That's the only reason, okay. So I wasn't going after the king. I was going after the bishop. That was tough. I was looking at the wrong plan. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed. Just a quick run of Puzzle Survivor. Made to 33, which is our second best ever. So maybe we're improving a little bit. All right. Catch you guys.